All right, everyone, welcome. We are live on the live stream, and we have an awesome guest. I hope you guys like that little intro over there. There, it looks like we're back. It looks like I might be having some internet problems over here. So if the stream happens to cut off, I'm going to plug in the hard cable and go from there. So again, everyone, welcome to the live stream. This is going to be a fun one. We have author Austin Chambers, who is the author of the Cascadia Fallen book series, and the latest book just came out. So I first met Austin a few years back now when the first book came out, Tahoma's Hammer. It's a fictional story based off like a real possibility that could happen in the Pacific Northwest in regards to the Cascadia subduction zone and the fault line that goes underneath Washington and the Pacific Northwest. And basically, it's not too much of a spoiler, but basically that goes off and it starts triggering earthquakes, which eventually results in the eruption of Tahoma, which is the Native American term for Mount Rainier, which is pretty close to where I live. And then it kind of takes off from there as far as the adventures go. And then it goes, basically, the story revolves the main character, Phil, and Phil belongs to a rifle range that's over on the kind of the northwest peninsula of Washington. And the story kind of revolves around a lot of different characters that start gathering within this one particular rifle range that belongs over there as part of their bug out location. And there's a lot of squabbles that goes on with people trying to, there's a lot of disaster, stuff's going wrong, things go bad. And it starts off going from not minor, but things with drug dealers and stuff like that, bad people, kind of the scumbags of the area. And then it starts progressing from there, where we're talking about military stuff. Countries are looking to exploit the U.S. because the U.S. is really in shambles after this big event, which kind of starts off a chain reaction. And we start talking about things with regard to other countries, the Mexican drug cartel, and more. And it really ramps up from there. And so the third and final book has just been released. So without further ado, let's bring on Austin Chambers to the live stream, and here we go.
Howdy.
Welcome. How's it going?
Hi, folks.
Yeah, hopefully, I don't know what happened on my internet all of a sudden.
Yeah, there's like one or two guys out there going,
yeah.
Yeah.
YouTube shut us down for
yeah.
So yeah, everyone, this is Austin Chambers. I have the links in the description box. You should definitely buy the book the entire time that we're doing this live stream. It's an awesome story. So how are things going with you?
Oh, pretty good. Just, always busy. So as you know, and I think everyone is nowadays, but with the stuff that 2020 has been going through, I hope they don't discover a COVID-20 and make 2021 even worse, right? So,
yeah, definitely. Looks like we have Stokermatic is on the stream, so we're going to be having Stokermatic next Saturday. So that's awesome. So get stoked.
Bill is an awesome dude. Just like Cliff. I'll talk to your audience here for a second.
Cool.
They're two of the nicest, most humble people you ever meet. So I've been very fortunate as I launched books and things like that to network and get to meet and fanboy on some of these guys a little bit, even though I think some of them fanboy on me now, maybe, but. Yeah, they're just, it's really fun. It's probably been, in addition to getting to know people who actually enjoy my writing and stuff and get to know those folks, that and networking with and meeting awesome people that you have learned so much from about preparedness over the years is probably another major fun side benefit of all this. So. Yeah,
and I first heard about you when you sent me an email. Hey, I got this new book out. I've been watching the channel, and then
next thing when I was pretending I was someone to have been heard of, right? So
yeah, and I'm like, sure, I'll check it out. And then I really got invested in the book, and we did the video, and I got to meet you at the rifle range, and things went on from there. Now we're doing live streams and all sorts of stuff together.
Well, one of the things about getting into indie publishing is you just got to go start telling people you're an author.
Yeah,
you feel like an imposter for a while. It's probably the same thing when you're standing up your YouTube channel, right? But
yeah.
No, I'm a preparedness guy on YouTube, and you're an expert. No, I'm just a dude who's relaying stuff he's learned. It's kind of the same thing with getting into indie publishing. So
yeah. So let's talk book 3. So I tried to give a basic introduction of the plot of it, and in the video in the beginning that also kind of had more along the theme of the story. But maybe we could kind of talk from the author himself as far as the story and where book 3 goes.
Because you've plugged a little bit, and I've networked real well with preparedness groups and stuff on Facebook, I think there's probably a decent percentage of people that have maybe at least heard of the books if haven't read them. But book 1, the first half of it takes a couple of days. I have multiple point of view characters, and that's a challenge for a new author. But I think based on the feedback, I pulled it off. And then book 2, I didn't necessarily get rid of some of those point of view characters, but I swapped them out for new ones. And so book 1 takes the place of half of it's over a couple of days, and then the other half of it is over the course of maybe 2.5 weeks. And then in book 2, I really had this vision where I was going to make this trilogy go out for months, and the story didn't write itself that way. Book 2 is about that point of time. I'm getting some of those new characters caught up back in time, but about how things really start to dissolve 2 or 3 weeks after the event, when people start to really realize help's not coming. And for those who haven't read the story, basically an earthquake magnitude is roughly 1,000 times worse for every 1.0 you go up, or I'm sorry, 100 times. So to go from a 7.0, which is pretty devastating, to a 9.0 would be roughly 1,000 times worse. Now, there's all kinds of factors there, the depth, the direction of the shock waves and stuff that can impact that, but that's a rule of thumb. So in the story I created, there's this destroyed highways, it's destroyed seaports, it's destroyed runways at airports, it's made it. And if you really ever study America, just go look at the American map, a picture at night with all the lights on, and you'll see just how much of America lives on the east side of the Mississippi, right? Based on just the lights in the cities. Seattle and the Portland and Vancouver areas are just basically their own little island way up here on the northwest side of the Rockies, right? So imagine not being able, even a helicopter only has a certain amount of range to bring supplies and stuff. So book 1 and 2 are about the devastation and the good people recognizing that society is starting to unravel on them. And I started setting up just really small amount in book 1, who was going to wind up being the foe by the end of book 2, which is this cartel.
Yep.
And the reason I made the cartel the enemy here is hopefully most preppers realize this, but it's not all good people are preppers. If you don't think cartels and gangs are organized in preparedness, growing their own food, storing their own supplies, ready to take advantage of a day when that thin line, that blue line disappears, then you got to wake up to that. And so a lot of prepper books they'll jokingly morph it into something called the mutant zombie bikers, right? Yeah. But in this world, I said, and as I wrote draft 1 thinking, well, the end term of this whole trilogy is going to be about this cartelification stuff. And then I heard that term on Prepping 2.0 when I think it was Sean something. Anyhow, he's a contractor security expert that was on a guest on Prepping 2.0 with Glenn Tate, Shelby Gallagher. I think that was the first time I'd ever heard that term. I was like, yes, that's what I've been trying to think of for this book, right? Is how these organized crime units are going to just take full advantage. So book 3 goes into the fact that this cartel in book 2 kind of had a highly organized, slip under the radar kind of insertion and invasion of the Northwest. Yep. And they've kind of, they used the creative tactics and deception and other things to absorb all the other gangs, basically through severe violence, right? Join or die. And so book 3 is about the people trying to react to that. Hey, we need to be ready this is no longer just about whether or not the police or the military is going to try to strip our guns away, like small events happened after Katrina and other things. A lot of people are always worried about how the government's going to react to them. But if the government has been knocked on its ass I don't know who your audience, yeah, that's okay. they're going to be just as overwhelmed by the events, right? Yeah. But who won't be is those wolves. So
Yeah, I
Really,
thought,
book three is about these people trying to form themselves into a unit that can fight an organized crime unit of several thousand people.
yeah, I
So,
thought that was really fascinating as far as the progression of where the story went. Because in Tahoma's Hammer, they're having to go up against junkies and other people that were trying to come within the rifle range, and then it's really built up towards, hey, these now we're having to go up against a much larger force. And I thought as preppers, oftentimes we're thinking about our bugging in and having our supplies, and yeah, there might be some stuff locally, but I think that uh, the whole threat of something from a different country and from those kind of organized groups is really really makes you think and kind of question yourself.
the prepping bug caught on 10, 12 years ago, and it really took off about 4 or 5 years after that. And that's, people went from needing bug out bags to realizing they need groups and bug out locations with 4 or 5 families that can trust each other and circle the wagons, right?
Yeah.
And now people need to realize that's, like Glenn and Shelby say, prepping 2.0. There's one evolution past that, and that's being ready to provide for your community.
Yeah.
And it's not all about handouts, right? It's not just keeping them fed. You have to be able to have an organized plan to augment. This is why I came up with the term posse, right?
Yep.
There's other words to describe the concept, and some of them have been demonized a little bit by the media or by idiots doing stupid stuff. But the bottom line is it's going to take a volunteer civilian force to maintain the rule of law after a massive event like this, right? Even if it's localized Northwest. And what I wanted to do is turn it into kind of a trickle-down effect that impacts the whole world. And that's just strategery for writing books, right? But how do I not know that if Tahoma, so by the way, Washington State is the nation's largest exporter of hydroelectric power. A lot of people don't realize that. Just with our mountains and our snowpack and our rivers. Mm-hmm. And if all of that quit flowing out to the western half of the United States, every state would have a sudden crisis. And so I played on that.
Yep.
Now, granted, Amazon and Boeing and Microsoft and some of our major corporate industries over here in the Seattle area have started outsourcing their headquarters and a lot of their factories to other parts of the country or around the world. But imagine if Amazon and Microsoft quit working one day because they've lost their power, their building just fell 9 feet into the ground, So I decided to just extrapolate on that and make it kind of a more of a worldwide trickle-down effect. So,
yeah, I like I think the end of the book one is when Phil kind of posed hey, we should call this a posse, and then at the end of book two, the Mexican cartel is hey, what's a posse? And it's kind of like this Western kind of thing. They talk about that a little bit too. Yeah, I like that part of it. Just want to get to a couple of the comments that are over here. That I think John over on Facebook is saying they'll make a great movie to make. So that's what we're hoping for. That's
writing screenplays is a whole new world, and it takes more time. It's a whole new skill you got to invest time in learning. And I think unlike when you write a book, you can go self-publish on Amazon. It's kind of hard to self-publish a screenplay. So
we have Daniel over here.
After that,
Daniel, where can I get the books? So the links for the books are in the description box below, and there's some deals going on, I think, right now. Right?
So the first book, Tahoma's Hammer, is free through Sunday, through the 15th. This is all Kindle version, right? So and then the second book marched up in price a little bit. I had it at 99 cents starting on the day that book 3 launched, but I think it's $1.99 for the rest of the day. It'll be back up to $2.99 for tomorrow. And then by Monday, they'll both be back up to their normal price, which is $2.99 for Tahoma's Hammer and $3.99 for Order to Vested. But I've given away several hundred copies of Tahoma's Hammer this week, so that's good. Wow. Hopefully those people will see the writing. And the other thing is, like a lot of new authors, there's probably a few typos and stuff in there. By book 3, I've kind of figured out that process. It's a lot more polished, but I think overall they're doing pretty well. I have pretty good star ratings on them. So
yeah, and here's another comment over here from Ryan. Never heard of it until North Country mentioned it. Downloaded the first Audible version on Friday. Looking forward to listening to them. Yeah, and I also like doing the Audible versions of them myself, although I think I'm going to probably start reading the book 3. But yeah, as North Country has been really helpful to help.
He's
building
another
up
awesome YouTuber I've gotten to meet and network with. Yeah. Before I'd written book one, we had gone to a preparedness expo in Sandpoint in September of 18. And it was really after that when I decided I need to knuckle down and draft this book I have in my head. I have a lot of books in my head, but I had been following his channel, and it was not nearly as big as it is now, but it was still pretty decent size a couple of years ago. And I had tried to nudge him and his wife to show up, and they couldn't make any promises. I mean, they run a legitimate farm, right? So, and I didn't get to meet him that year, but then the next year I was there as an actual vendor trying to sell that first book, and they came over and I got to meet him up. And sometimes people don't realize I'm like 7'3". No, I'm a short guy, like 5'9", right? But you don't realize height or size or whatever on YouTube a lot of the time. And I went, holy crap, who is this guy? Oh, that's that guy from North Country Off Grid, right? So he's like 6'7". He's going to dwarf you, by the way. So,
wow, cool. Well, I've been trying to get him on the stream. Hopefully we get it worked. He's definitely off country, so it's we got to get the internet connection. But. Yeah,
so North Country Off Grid, if everyone doesn't know who I'm talking about, that's the channel. He lives in Idaho, so runs a little homestead. So I got to meet him at there, and he plugged my Cascading Preparedness YouTube channel out of the blue back in spring. Yeah. And I went from 125 followers to like 1,500 overnight. I thought there was a glitch. I was like getting ready to call YouTube and go, what are you guys doing? But yeah, so.
Yeah, I think it's so cool when the other channels are able to help bring up the channels that are starting to grow. And I think that all of us have done that. I mean, there's channels that help me grow. And
to those watching that haven't heard it yet, Cliff wrote my foreword to this last book that just came out. And North Country has plugged me a couple of times in book reviews, just like Cliff has, and I think Bill Stoker has. But I went and named first name only some characters out of after Chad and some of the other homestead YouTube channels that are up there in that area, and they get themselves a little cameo in this book 3.
Cool.
I didn't have a room for a Wookiee.
That's okay.
Wookiees in book 3, but
well, now that I know Chad is so tall, I'm probably one of the taller YouTuber preppers in Washington, but maybe not in Idaho, so it's not. So it looks like there's a couple people here. Someone was asking, is there going to be any spoilers? We're going to try to go spoiler free on this one. So let's see. That's from Lionheart. Yeah, Lionheart. We're going to try to go spoiler free as much as possible, but we're hoping that you've read the first one or kind of have a general idea of it. Let's see. It looks like Matt was talking first. F me just into the intro 4 minutes in, and I've had these dreams. So I think the world that you've kind of created in this book series resonates with people for sure.
I just figured out how to turn on comments, so now I can read these.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, everyone who thinks this should be a great movie. Honestly, I found epic music channels on YouTube, and I listen to those as I play in a scene in my head. And I'll go back and rewrite that scene based on epic movie scores. So it does help. I think this is why people think it makes a great movie, is because I've written it as if I were writing a screenplay, even though it's written in novel form, right? Because there are some differences. But that would be the cool thing. Thank you, Rogue and Morgan, and some other people that had mentioned that also. So.
Yeah, so let's see. The audiobooks for the first 2 versions are available, and
they are available. The third one is in production right now. There's a big wild card thing there. Even the core authors that have many books out go through this. If you do your Audible through ACX, which is an Amazon company, or audio, that's how you get it onto Audible and iTunes. And you can upload that thing, and it'll go through a review process that is usually going to be a minimum of 2.5 weeks. But the last one, it took 6.
Wow.
And there's nothing you can do to control that.
Yeah.
So I delayed the launch of book 1 for months as I was a newbie and was just trying to get all the ducks in a row. And I was able to get the Audible out at about the same time. And I learned with book 2 not to even sweat it. So the Audible came out on that 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks later, maybe. It was running really late. And then this one, I got it in production. That'll wrap up around the first week of December. If we're lucky, we'll get it out in time for Christmas. I don't know. It's out of our hands after that point. So
yeah, there's a comment here from the Colonel. Looks like, is it true that Austin Chambers used his life experiences to characterize the gang leader's actions? Were you in a
So,
Mexican drug cartel? What's going on here?
yeah, that guy, I happen to know that guy in real life. So I think he's messing with me a little bit. But
There's someone else that says it's like this guy has lived in the Mexican cartel land. So there's some
close. I grew up in
conspiracy
the
theories
suburbs
going
of
out there.
Austin, Texas. So
Yeah.
uh, I was in a veterans motorcycle club for a while, about 10 years ago. And so I learned a lot about motorcycle clubs.
Yeah.
And they're just motorcycle clubs. I get that. And the vast majority of are. But when you're into that world, you have to learn a little bit about club respect and how to approach clubs that are populated by people who, some of not all outlaw motorcycle clubs are outlaws, right? But some of them are. That's the reason there's the term, right? So I had a little bit of knowledge on how club life, and it's very important to those people. That's if they've earned their cut, which is that vest, then that becomes the most important priority part of their life. Sometimes even over their family and stuff, depending on how intense that club is. So I had a little bit of an insight into that, and actually I wrote a chapter 0 to Homa's Hammer, which is part of my onboarding process for signing up for a newsletter. And it's a bonus chapter, basically. It's, like a regular chapter, 3,300 words or whatever it is. And it goes back into the very beginning of Tahoma's Hammer. It takes place a few years before the disasters, and the main character gets into the shootout on the highway. It's only one of only 2 shootouts in the first book, believe it or not. A lot of people don't realize it's only 2 scenes of actual shooting in that first book. And the whole purpose of the scene was just to explain how Phil had lost part of a leg and the depth of the bond between him and this deputy named Charlie. But I went back and wrote this chapter 0 about how, from the bad guy's perspective, and the shootout is because Phil was trying to aid a state trooper that had tried to pull over some guys who just got done robbing a bank. Well, those guys happen to be part of an outlaw motorcycle club, and they're trying to earn their patches, right? So I wrote this chapter 0 based on that. A lot of people are like, wow, man, how did you know so much about MC? Well, I was in one. I was just in a family-friendly one that was for veterans. But yeah, the cartel thing, it's very similar in nature, I think, as far as drug cartels as compared to modern American motorcycle clubs and stuff. So
Yeah, it's I'm looking forward to diving into the book 3 because the book there's a lot of stuff that happens at the end of book 2. I'm trying to go spoiler free on this one.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yes, some people are worried like, hey, I haven't read the book. I see this from Dan. I'm going to be lost during this, but you'll like it still, Daniel. Don't worry. And It looks like the Colonel also said, I've read the first 2 and now on to the 3rd via Kindle. Austin Chambers does a masterful job of writing suspenseful, realistic writing. I live in his region and have been to the actual club range several times. So
yeah. So, and thank you, Colonel. And I lost my train of thought there. Ask the question.
Let's start going into some of the questions because there's a lot that on this particular story, there's a lot of characters. There's a lot of almost like time. It goes, before the eruption and after. There's a lot of jumping like that, kind of like what's the movie I just watched? I'm spacing on it. The Tenet, where there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff going on, like in terms of that, and it's kind of Game of Thrones-esque as far as
right. And that's why I timestamp the sections, right?
Yeah.
You start a chapter and says Tahoma's Hammer plus.
Yep.
14 days.
Yeah.
Any section after that timestamp where there's not a new timestamp, you can assume it's all on the same day. But then maybe I have to go back and address another character, and their story hasn't caught up to that one, right? So,
so there's a question that we had as far as did we really tie up all these cliffhangers from book 2 because there's
I want to know who asked that.
Who asked that question?
Yeah, well, I was looking at the comments. So, yes, asterisk. There's a lot of cliffhangers. In fact, this is kind of funny story. You go and look at your reviews on Amazon, and at some point you have to learn to not look at them like every day. But when you're new, it's kind of fun and exciting. And then you finally get a bad one, and you're like, oh man, this person's way off the mark. Which is, I had one guy these are recent reviews on books 1 and 2, and so he read them within a few days of each other, and he says, Book one, he kind of tore me up because he didn't think technically I went into the tsunami and stuff as bad as it would be in his mind. All right, but in book two, he goes, this same problem I have with book one. This guy just like ends the book like he's tired of writing. And I was like, wait a minute, this is. Do you remember how The Empire Strikes Back ended?
Yeah.
Or The Lord of the Rings, the very first Lord of the Rings movie? You're going, wait a minute, that's it? I mean, that's kind of the whole point of a cliffhanger, right? Is to leave people dangling. So,
Yeah.
yes, I wrap up all of that. There's a one little story there where I try not to spoil, but basically there's a character named Natalie in book two whose family, part of them, they managed to escape, but the husband gets killed, and something happens to the daughter. And in book three, a relative is going after to remedy all of this wrong that's been done to his sister, and it doesn't play out the way most readers are going to want. But I've left that dangling as a way to tie this series to the next series.
Mm-hmm.
So I will take that thing that you feel is unresolved back up in the next series. But yes, the vast majority of these threads are all answered to satisfaction. So
yeah, awesome. And then another one that we're kind of talking about, what I really liked on this book, which one was that it was kind of in my local area too. It was a real event that I thought I was pretty prepared for. Turns out I don't have as much of the groups that I probably need to compared to the Slaughter Peninsula posse. But and then three, there's a lot of cool prepper themes in it, prepper tricks of the trade and stuff like that. So I guess what kind of prepping topics can we expect in book three?
Okay, so my style is I try to wrap hints up as just a detail that helps paint a scene.
Yeah.
It's early on, some of the prepper novels, which are big sellers, right? But a lot of times you kind of get lost. It almost overtook the plot a little bit as they're describing how to set up a listening post, observation post,
yeah,
or some tanglefoot around the property or whatever. So in this one, there is a scene where the guy gets called to go to the gate to respond to something. He's one of the leaders of a group. And so he sets down a copy of Back to Basics, right? And that's it. And people are going to go, what's Back to Basics? And they're going to go on Amazon or wherever and look it up, and they're going to go, oh man, I need that book, right? Or there's a YouTube video that I had found where these people with very cheap amount of parts, they have to have a little electronic knowledge, but they're able to solder. This is like in India or something, mm-hmm. Solder up an infrared tracker, and they put it on this little water pressure propelled, I almost call it glider, something 2 or 3 feet big. Yeah. They launched this thing, it went up 30 or 40 feet in the air, and then it started tracking, and it flew 100, 130 feet on this water pressure and tracked in on an infrared sensor. Therefore, these guys essentially made a homemade aerial tracking glider. So in the book, these guys kind of teach the reader, hey, and so that comes in tactically, a very important part of kind of the key battles at the end. I don't want to give it away any more than that, but okay. You can make a homemade infrared tracker. There's a few other things, but again, they all kind of just, they help support plot and character. They're not so much like it doesn't diverge into an entire 3 paragraphs on how to grow a thing or seal a thing, right? So
yeah, I really liked how I really like how you kind of integrated that into it without kind of distracting from it.
Like the water bob in book 1.
Yeah, well, yeah, I
fills up with water bob,
Yeah, I got a kick out of the water bob, and I think there's a just how he referred to preppers in the first one, especially I liked, and but I didn't find it distracting from the story. It was like a natural part of the story, and it might encourage someone to kind of look into, hey, what was he talking about?
Well, and I think a lot of the authors have morphed into that style. There's a lot of good. They call it the post-apocalyptic genre, or maybe dystopian. Those are kind of the 2 big genres that prepper books kind of wind up in. And you go read Franklin Horton or Kyla Stone or some of these other bigger authors, and mm-hmm. They do the same thing very well, right? So.
Yeah, and on this one, I don't know if we talked about it yet. On this, you were Austin Chambers was kind enough to ask me to write the foreword to the book, and so if you get the 3rd book right now, which is available, that the foreword was written by me, and I thought I could which I was pretty nervous about doing, just because I'm not that good at writing, I don't think. And you could ask my mom. All of my teachers said I
wrote it.
Yeah, so I had a ghostwriter. It was really Austin Chambers that wrote it. But you were talking a little bit about kind of the fanboy stuff as far as it's been. So I was going to read maybe a little section of
my preface.
Of the forward, and then I'll read the last part of the last paragraph of my forward, and then the last paragraph of your part of it, because they kind of tie into each other. So I said, I first met Austin Chambers at the rifle range that serves as the basis for Phil's Posse's primary bug out location in the summer of 2019, shortly after reading the book, when my family and I arrived at the West Sound Sportsman's Club to meet Austin and his lovely wife, Mrs. Chambers. I saw Austin approach our vehicle from the range office. This was one of those moments when fiction and reality blurred, and I couldn't shape the feeling of that I was seeing Phil for the first time. Austin looked to be about the age of the character in the book, gave off the same military vibe that I had imagined, and even walked with a little bit of a limp as Phil does. I immediately became intimidated. After all, in the book, Phil is an intense guy, and that is all business. I was relieved to find out that Austin Chambers is a fun-loving man with a great sense of humor. Over the past year and a half, I've been fortunate to have gotten to know him as a friend, prepper, veteran, and all-around great human being. However, I can't help but wonder when Austin's inner Phil is going to unveil himself to give out some no-nonsense orders, as only Phil can. If that day were ever to come, I only hope that my skills and planning as a prepper would allow my family to be let in by Phil through the gate of the West Sound Sportsman's Club in Slaughter County to become an official member of the Slaughter Peninsula Posse. So that was the end of mine. And then I saw the book, and you kind of told me about it there, as far as you were thanking some of the people that helped contribute to the book. So you wrote, and I have to thank my good friend Cliff, the Urban Prepper, for taking the time out of his busy pen to forward of this book. He's a generally nice in person, and as he seems in his videos, even though he does fanboy me in a weird Kathy Bates in Misery kind of way. Just keep the hammer away from that guy, would you?
The homeless hammer. Yeah.
that was funny. So they kind of tied in together. So, yeah, there was there's some fanboy stuff going on for.
And I don't have my author copies in hand yet, but in case anyone's wondering what the cover looks like, there we go.
Yeah. So it's a Spiritus Americae, is that how?
Yeah, and that's Latin for American spirit, obviously.
Yeah.
And I actually worked that into the plot a little bit. Yes.
Cameo appearance?
Camera shy a visitor. She would freak. That door would slam shut if I spun this camera. So
you never know when my daughter usually makes cameo appearances on the live stream. So
right, yeah, and she's awesome, by the way. I guess whatever we're talking about just now wasn't important before the interruption. But
yeah, it's okay. The Colonel is saying, what's this thing about on December 5th that people are talking about, a book signing?
Well, so I'm a participant in, and I don't know if the organizer, what the intentions are. So a lot of states, particularly states that have a certain type of leadership at the helm, are going backwards in restrictions. And so I don't know if that's going to impact this, but what he's referring to is here in the local Kitsap County area, which is on the west side of Puget Sound, there will be an author event at the Crosby Community Center in the west part of, it's basically right in the back door of Slaughter County in the books, right? Mm-hmm. So at the Crosby Community Center on December 5th, it's all day. I think it starts at 9:30 or something. Myself, Jeff Reynolds from Portland, Shelby Gallagher and Glenn Tate, who are two well-established prepper authors, are all going to be there showcasing our books. And then they'll have some gaps in between, but each of us gets an hour to kind of talk to the audience too, right? So
cool. I have a couple autographed books myself here first. So
yeah, and I'll make sure, and just so the audience knows, I send some to Cliff, I'll send some to the Stokermatic and North Country. I try to share some copies that these guys can give away to their fans and stuff. So yes,
we'll definitely be doing some kind of giveaway contest for the books, because again, it's for those of you watching, just hopping on the live stream right now, we're talking with author Austin Chambers about the third and final chapter of the Cascadia Fallen book series, which it's a really exciting adventure that kind of takes place within the Pacific Northwest, has a lot to do with prepping, has a lot.
And I felt like it was the best one. And the first couple of reviews have started coming in on Amazon, and the very first one said the same thing, best of the trilogy. So
Awesome.
Definitely the most action packed. It's going to be the one that makes you angry or happy or tear jerk. Play with your emotions. It's by far the one where the most stuff happens. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned how the editor got a little tear jerky on the end of it too. So
yeah, my editor emailed me before she was done. She had a chapter or two left to do still, and says, "I'm bawling here." Right? She basically was bawling for the last 15 or 20% of the book. So that's a good sign when your editor, who's trying to look at everything objectively and just polish it up grammatically and look for errors, is so engaged in the story that it is playing with their emotions. So
that's great. And again, this is your third book, so it's not. So when you first wrote me, I'm like, oh, this guy's been writing all the time, and it was something that you kind of wanted to do for a long time, and then you did some.
Like a lot of writers, they finally pull the plug, but they've been doing it their whole life. When I went to night school after I got out of the Navy in the 90s, and the English 101 teacher was they would give out assignments and then look at them, right? And she read mine like every third class. One of mine was being read as an example to the rest of the class. Little shorts, they give you and stuff. So I should have known back then to keep an eye on this whole self-publishing thing when that exploded. But I got so engaged in other parts of my life, I just never really paid much attention to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been writing. And then at work, in addition to doing technical stuff, if they want to roast someone or write a poem for their retirement or something, I'm the guy. In fact, I do it so well, I almost wound up in trouble a couple of times, right? So, but I'm not going to go there anymore. So
yeah. What's one piece of advice that you'd have for anyone who wants to write a book, wants to self-publish a book?
I'm gonna actually. I just processed a video. I'm gonna throw not on my Cascadia Preparedness channel, but my Austin Chambers, which is just, I don't really try to promote that as a channel, but every now and then I throw plugs up so that people who want to understand my brand a little bit. So far, there's 2 videos on there. I'm going to throw a third one up there today. And it's what I called it was the red pill, blue pill. And in short, if you want to write that book to check it off the bucket list or just share it with some immediate friends and family, that's great. Do that. And, maybe even get some proofreaders and stuff. But if you want to write a book, and this is not discouragement, this is encouragement, but it's encouragement with you're in for more than you think you are. When you go and self-publish, and it's the way to go, there's pros and cons to both that and going traditional, but self-publishing is the way most of us choose because it is highly successful a lot more quickly and with a lot less risk and challenge to just even get an agent to look, right? But the red pill versus the blue pill is, up to this point, you think that writing the book was the hardest thing to do. And it's difficult as it is not. There's so much more that goes into standing up a business, learning how to stand up a newsletter and why you should, right? And do all those things successfully, growing your platform on social media, learning how to do the ads on Amazon and Facebook. And it's just this giant learning curve. And of course, the more time you invest in learning, the less you're actually writing, right? So I call it the red pill, blue pill. People who are 2 or 3 books into their career have finally realized they're in this giant labyrinth, right? And when you first write that first book, or you're thinking about writing that first book, and I'm going to go throw this thing up on Amazon and have passive income for the rest of my life, they're in for a rude awakening if they don't go into that knowing that it's basically a second full-time job for a long time. Most of the authors that wind up doing it full-time, they didn't do it full-time right from book 1 or book 2. They had 15 or 20 books out over the course of 4 or 5 years before they finally got to that point. So,
yeah, we've talked offline about me writing a book, and I'm just saying, well, I need to just have Austin Chambers be my ghostwriter for it.
I'll help you out however I can. I don't want to write it for you because I think your prepping knowledge and the things you want to say are infinitely beyond mine.
I don't know about that,
but that would definitely help you with the pros, right? So, I want to squirrel. You haven't asked me about my EDC yet.
Well, that's what I was about to do. So it's that time of the show. I think it was proposed by Bertie in the comments section. It's
Now set
EDC
it
check.
up.
Yeah, it's EDC check time. The standard part of the show where we ask our guests what is in their EDC for this live stream. We're going to ask the author Austin Chambers on
We
what
got to
is
go
in.
back in time a little bit. So back.
I think we should probably bring Bernie on this one. Bernie would probably want to see this in person, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, Bernie's right there saying he can't wait. But back when
there we go.
Hey, what's up, Bernie?
Hey, how you doing, Austin?
Good. So back in summer, and I was not at work, and even a little bit after I went back to work on Saturdays, I was helping moderate Cliff's live streams a little bit. And he would always have Bernie and I come on toward the end there, and we do an EDC check, and it kind of turned into this giant joke, right? Like the EDC leg lamp back here.
Yeah.
But, so today my EDC is in my holster here. I have my Christmas.
Yes.
There we go.
Christmas Vacation collector's tin. So
Good.
yeah, best Christmas movie ever, right? So, and in my behind the waist holster, I carry Back to Basics. There's that book I was.
Oh,
talking.
good.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
Is that
don't forget, the ankle holster? I have my tactical stuffed cheetah. So
Wow, that's
you never know when. Yeah,
yeah.
that can come in handy.
That's a Kevlar, I think, too. That's a
It's probably not as good as when I had the tactical gallon of MCT oil, but
yeah, that was a good one to do.
or
Well,
the
your
camping
EDC
stove, or the camping stove you had in your socks.
or don't forget the giant sword.
Yeah, oh yeah. This one.
I like how your EDC is always changing. It's always evolving and changing. Looks like a Matt saying, just got back. If there's a role for me, I'm going to be back for those film rights. Congrats on all three. So that's
Thank you. If there's a role.
Well, cool. So that was Austin Chambers' EDC check. It never disappoints, and there's always new things in the EDC. Bernie, you've been out and about doing some stuff. Do you have any questions for Austin Chambers on book 3? Again, we're promoting the Cascadia Fallen book series. The third one just came out, and so the links are available in the description box. But any questions for him with regard to storylines or anything?
So I've heard Cliff already mention a couple of times that, this is book 3, the final chapter. Is it really the final chapter?
That's good.
Well, it is for the traditional trilogy. I decided back before I really knew what I was doing, I'm going to write a trilogy, and didn't realize that a lot of the authors out there, they'll write 3 or 4 books in a series. Now they're a little bit different. Typically what they do is follow 1 or 2 primary point of view characters, right? Mine had so many. And then that first book I had swapped before I actually released, reading book with a guy named Justin Oldham up in Alaska. And he goes, oh yeah, you got some good stuff there. You could crank 10 books out of that. And I was like, I've already said it's a trilogy, right? So that kind of threw me for a loop. I didn't realize that was part of not knowing what I was doing. But I committed to that trilogy. But even as I had already drafted that first draft of Tahoma's Hammer, I knew I had more story to tell. Now, I kind of was my biggest books I liked the most when I was a heavy reader in my young adulthood, like in the Navy and when my kids were little, was Tom Clancy stuff, right? And other military type authors of that nature. So I kind of was setting up this Tahoma's Hammer with like Cliff was saying in the very, very beginning, the economic impacts to the rest of the world, the internet impacts to the rest of the world. America is on her knees as she's now without power, and like the western half in every city starting to riot, right? So that kind of, well, I could have the whole China versus Russia thing, which is very realistic to modern, what's going on in the world state. So I kind of set up China and Russia start duking it out with each other for who gets the chance to come over here, right? And so there's a spin-off book series called Blades of Grass. And if you don't know the term, Blades of Grass, it's a kind of a myth. It comes from post-World War II. A lot of people misattribute it to, I think it was attributed wrong is how it made famous. But the original attribution was to a Japanese admiral who said that we're not going to invade America because behind every blade of grass is an American with a gun.
Yep.
So I decided, well, let's do the book series called Blades of Grass, and it's going to be a blending of post-apoc and military thriller. So I've got, and there'll be different ratios of the story depending on which book it is. In the very first book, I would say a good 70% of it at least will be committed to this trying to eradicate the cartel problem that had sprung up in Cascadia Fallen books, right? And then I'll be setting up the rest of that stuff between Russia and China. And eventually it leads into a full-scale war here on the continental U.S. So that's how that book series is going to play out. But it very heavily will rely on the whole Blades of Grass concept, which is everyday citizens standing up and doing what they got to do.
Cool.
I'm volunteering to be a cameo in that. By the
All
way,
right.
you know, so and even if you got to kill me off, I totally
we're going to kill off Bernie in it.
Yeah,
I
totally get it.
A racing instructor in the book now.
I had another. We had another question over here as far as why did you dedicate the book to hashtag V4CR? Do you want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah. So if you don't know what Vets for Child Rescue is, and I'll try to keep this as apolitical as possible, but basically this year, it's come to serious light the last year or two, the amount of human trafficking. Now, Vets for Child Rescue is obviously, they really are, their biggest focus is on trying to rescue children and get them the help they need to recover. But if you go and look at certain types of media where you're more likely to see certain types of stories, you'll find out that there's been, this year, it's been a record year for them busting child sex trafficking rings. Sometimes they rescue dozens or even hundreds of children, and it hardly makes the media's attention, right? Because the media doesn't care that you care about those things. So there's a former SEAL and federal agent named Craig the Sawman Sawyer. You may have heard of him. He was the resident, probably the best firearms expert if you ever watched a TV show called Top Shot. And he started up Vets for Child Rescue, and they literally go out and watch the coyote trails. And yeah, I know a lot of people didn't realize that Donald Trump actually knew what he was talking about when he mentioned coyotes. But coyotes are those people that run narcotics and humans to be trafficked across the border, right? The border with no wall on it. So sorry, I said I would keep it apolitical, but the coyotes, Vets for Child Rescue guys will go out there and these are all former like Rangers and special operations and other infantry trained people that watch those trails and report it to the federal agents so they have an idea of how to go and try to stop some of that trafficking. So that said, it's been a record year in a bad way of, well, I guess it's good that we're stopping some of this and exposing it and the high levels that some of it's tied to as far as the entertainment industry and stuff like that. It's just like any other vice. There's a demand that drives the product, right? And so Vets for Child Rescue is one of those organizations that's really bringing us out to the forefront. If you follow that hashtag on Instagram or on the other social medias, you'll see the good works that these people are doing to rescue children. So
cool. So shout out to Vets for Child Rescue.
And in this third book, there's a little, like I said, there's one little thing I didn't tie up fully, and it has to do with trying to rescue a child. So
awesome. I'm gonna check that out after this stream is done and look more into it. But yeah, it's been a little disappointing on that it hasn't been getting more wider recognition in the news and stuff because it's you like it to be. So looks like a Stokermatic still over here. Stokermatic is going to be coming on the live stream next Saturday. I think if my time, yeah, that's right, the 21st. So it's going to be awesome talking with him. And the Blades of Grass sounds like a good series.
If people who don't know who Bill Stoker is, not only is he a current Army, I think he's probably an E8. He's up there in senior leadership as far as the enlisted guys go. He's also a former Marine. And I'll be using him as a technical guide a lot on these coming up books, right? I was a Navy guy, and I haven't been a Navy guy in almost 30 years. So when I'm going to go write about Army stuff, I want it to be as realistic as possible. So thanks, Bill. You didn't know he just volunteered to help me. So
yeah. Make sure. Yeah. So again, Bill's going to be coming on next Saturday for the live stream, and he has an awesome YouTube channel. Just search for Stokermatic on YouTube, and you're going to get a lot of great information. A lot of it takes place in the outdoors, wilderness navigation, outdoor survival skills, those kind of things. And he has a real positive energy in all the videos, and it really gets you kind of gets me fired up. So, or gets me stoked. So definitely. Support Stokermatic's YouTube channel, and we're going to be talking with him more. I'm looking forward to it. We've been trying to sync up since we met at Austin's pad, and we kind of had like a get together. There's a lot of people there. Bertie wasn't able to make it because he's all the way down in Portland, but I got to meet him there briefly, and it was
next summer. Bernie will get you up here.
We're gonna make it happen.
Bernie could fly his new drone up up here, and he could.
I'm hanging on. Good for me.
I want to be there at the party. So yeah, so that'd be a lot of fun. Well, I don't know. Should we have someone have the final word on this one? I think we're. I hope everyone's been enjoying this. Again, let me put some brands up here. All the books are available. Links to the books are available in the description box of this particular video. The new, let's see, where's my? It's hard to multitask and get all the banners. There we go. There's the clicker. So Spiritus Americae is out, the third and final chapter of the Cascadia Fallen book series, which takes place in kind of post-apocalyptic Pacific Northwest theme where a bad earthquake happens with the Cascadia subduction zone, results in a Mount Rainier eruption. Things go bad. Stuff starts happening locally. That's really tough. There's a lot of survival situations, a lot of characters. They all start gathering around this one particular rifle range that's with the main character, Phil, who has some tactical expertise. And I kind of think that Austin Chambers really is Phil, and he's just not saying it yet. And it goes from battles within... Yeah, great. It goes with kind of smaller skirmishes with bad people within the area to growing to even where we're talking countries getting involved because the West Coast, the U.S. is really hurt during all of this due to the economic and energy and stuff. The Mexican cartel comes in. There's some bad guys there. I'm looking forward to the leader of that. Hopefully he gets his due by the end of book 3. If he doesn't, it's going to be sad. So I don't know. Is there any kind of a potential, not spoilery, but for kind of hints that that would be a final sign off for this particular one then?
Yeah, as far as the cartel guy. So
anything, because I want bad stuff to happen. That's the one guy I want bad stuff to happen to. I don't know.
Well, be prepared for a lot of action. Be prepared for a lot of people to get killed, good and bad. And at the very end, you think the bad guy got away with it. But as in the epilogue, one last way to convert this to the spin-off Blades of Grass series, it's just an epic ending that you feel like they got what they deserved. So,
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So again, this is awesome. It looks like people are enjoying it. Make sure you smash that like button if you like these live streams. If you like talking with Austin Chambers about fun books, get books, get the kids, and get home. Can't wait for the last book. Things that make you go, There's so cool. So again, all the links are available in the description box. If you happen not to watch this live, hopefully next time you'll watch it live so you could talk with us in real time. Make sure you check out all those links, get the books. You're going to get really invested in the storyline. I'm going to be doing some giveaway contests for some of these books in the near future. And we got a lot of cool live stream guests coming up shortly. We have Peggy. Yeah, it's like I have like a TV show or something, or interview show like Johnny Carson for preppers. Or I have Peggy and Dawn from they've been building up their pantry over this past year. They're doing really awesome stuff. We're going to be talking about pressurized meat canning, and with Denise, that's going to be a fun one. Stokermatic's coming on. I have let's see who else. Rogue Preparedness is coming on. Canadian Prepper's coming back on. I'm going to have both Canadian Prepper and City Prepping at the same time. It'll be a battle of the CPs, and we'll see which CP is the winner of it. So that's going to be in December. And then working on, I think Alaska Preppers coming on, and more people, hopefully North Country as well. So anyway, fun stuff. This has been a fun outlet, and I think we're talking. Yeah, Matt Lansky wants the TV series for 2022 for the Cascadia Fallen TV series. I think that'd be good too. So.
Well, in my head, it's an HBO series. So
it's like the next. Yeah, there's so many characters. It's like the next Game of Thrones, but for us.
Right, but I don't take 7 years between books. So,
I don't think we're ever going to get the final book on that, but
yeah.
Oh goodness.
But thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
thank you. And I think I was going to hop on. For those of you that are following on the Discord server, I think I'm going to hop on over there. Maybe Austin might be available just in the.
It'll be my first time. Go easy.
Yeah, we'll go easy. But if you have any questions or anything that you want to talk about, we're going to hop on over to the Discord server for a few minutes just to do a little after hours party in the voice channel. So there's it's called the Preppers Lounge. So go look for the Preppers Lounge on the Discord server right now, and we'll be hanging out for a little bit, and then we're going to go do stuff because it's a Saturday and we should be having fun. So anyway, special thanks to Bernie again for keeping everyone in line. Special thanks to Austin Chambers. Make sure you support the Cascadia Fallen book series, and the latest book, Spiritus Americae, is out now, and I'm looking forward to diving into it. And I did write the book forward to it, and hopefully I didn't suck too bad on it. So,
You did good.
okay, cool. There's the cover right there. So, all right, everyone. Thanks everyone for the support. Stay tuned for more live streams, and we're going to sign this one off. So, see you guys next time.
Thanks.